Last season saw us lift the Bundesliga title, but we failed to win the Pokal after losing to Bayern Munich in the quarter-finals, which means we just have one more season to add a 6th DFB Pokal to Dortmund's trophy cabinet, given we are only allowed to stay for 2 seasons. So we've had a busy off-season trying to build on the team and put us in a position where we can challenge for the Pokal, but as I always say, it will be down to the luck of the draw. Starting with players sold then, Niklas Zule went out for 38.5 million to Aston Villa, and Julian Ryerson went to Real San Sebastian, or Real Sociedad, for 17.75. Our biggest signing of the summer transfer window was Xavi Simons, who we brought in for £40 million. Samson Baidu was Niklas Zule's replacement, and the young Austrian cost just 19 million. Rooney Barger is only 18 and he cost 16.75 million, but for me that's an absolute bargain. He's a brilliant player on FM24 and he's certainly going to add some strength to our forward line. Just under 15 million we signed Josh Doig, the young Scottish left-back, and Rydal Baku is Ryerson's replacement. We brought him in for just under £10 million and he is a German national, helping with that homegrown quota. And for just under £5 million, Eric Martel, again adding some squad depth as well as that homegrown quota for us. We also picked up a couple of free transfers with players that were released from Ajax and Liverpool, Gabriel Missawi and Cade Gordon joining us on free transfer. Also to note that Mats Hummel left on a free transfer as he joined Liverpool. So as of the 15th of September, the transfer window is obviously closed. We've played 3 Bundesliga games and we have won all 3. So we are sitting there on 9 points. Werder Bremen obviously came in hand over us. We are through to the next round of the Pokal as well. We won the second round 2-1. So this is how the squad is now looking. Really pleased with the business that we've been able to do. We brought in some very, very good players. Samson Baidu is great. Rooney Barge is fantastic. Xavi Simons is fantastic. We have a very strong squad here now, and one that I think we can challenge for the Pokal as well as defend the Bundesliga title and hopefully have a bit of a crack at the Champions League. Don't think we're quite good enough to challenge for the Champions League, albeit in real life Dortmund did get to the final last season. Not that it really matters, but we did win the Super Cup, beating Bayern Munich on penalties. Champions League draw looks a little bit tricky. We're away to Nice, which might be a bit of a banana skin. At home to Rangers that we should win. Away to Manchester City, which will be difficult. At Red Star Belgrade away should be a game that we win. Home to Liverpool will be tricky. Away to Napoli will be tricky. And then 2 home games at the end there against Fenerbahce and Real San Sebastian, not Real Sociedad, I think. So they're games that I think we should be winning at home, but it's going to be tricky. So let's see how we get on in the first half of the season, and I'll see you again round about the midway point. We continued our strong start to defending the Bundesliga title with another 4 wins in a row, beating Eintracht Frankfurt, Nuremberg, Borussia Mönchengladbach and Bochum. However, a trip to Heidenheim in mid-October was the first time in the season that we dropped any points after a goalless draw. We then played Werder Bremen at home, who have been up there challenging us near the top of the table, but some neat play between Xavi and Makuku opened the scoring in just under 5 minutes. The next goal didn't come while the 53rd minute, but it was worth waiting for when Niklas Füllkrug smashed in a free kick from 25 yards. The score finished 2-0 and we were completely dominant in possession as well as not conceding any shots all game. We followed that up with a 6-1 demolition of Hoffenheim and then we scored 6 goals in succession with a 6-0 victory over Augsburg and Adeyemi claiming a hat-trick. And then came our first trip to Munich of the season and Bayern had been in good form, joining us up near the top of the table, competing for that title. Unfortunately, they took the lead on 23 minutes when Marcus Thuram's shot was deflected past Cabell by Thiaw. But just before the break, Marcus Thuram's back pass was messed about by Neuer and Adeyemi intercepted, slotting it into the open net. It was 1-1 at half-time. But when Bayern turn it on, they turn it on. They're that good a side. And it was in the 86th minute that Ibrahimovic made it 2-1. No, not that one. It was our first defeat of the season, and it was a bitter pill to swallow. We'd bounced back from that defeat, though, with 5 victories in a row, claiming them over Hamburg, Bayer Leverkusen, Freiburg, Wolfsburg and Union Berlin, and a 1-1 draw away at Stuttgart meant we were top of the table after 19 games with a 4-point lead. And just as I said, the Champions League was a bit of a banana skin. Opening defeat to Nice in France was followed up by a 1-0 win at home to Rangers. However, we didn't win any of the next 4, with a 4-2 defeat to Manchester City, a 1-1 draw away at Red Star Belgrade, a defeat at home to Liverpool, and a valuable point that we picked up in Italy. The home game against Fenerbahce ended 2-0, but the last game of the group stage ended 1-1 when Kubo scored in stoppage time. Somehow, we'd sneaked through to the qualifying phase after finishing in last place. Things weren't going much better in the Pokal. We'd managed to scrape past non-league Saarbrücken 2-1 after a 90th minute penalty from Ben Sebaini. A comfortable 3-0 win against Kaiserslautern set us up for an away tie in the third round against Hannover 96. However, it took a penalty shootout for us to scrape through, with Kobel getting man of the match. The quarter-final saw us drawn at home to Wolfsburg, and Bayern Munich were away to Augsburg. We made just the one signing in the January transfer window, and that was bringing Florian Wirtz to the club. That was for 85 million, potentially rising to around about 108. Back to the league in February then, and we travelled to Leipzig, where we got a very important 3-1 win. That's because our next fixture saw us go down 1-0 at home to Eintracht Frankfurt. That defeat to Frankfurt made us a little bit nervous, and the next fixture away at Nuremberg, they took the lead after 23 minutes. Sometimes, though, the stars are aligned, and for some reason, Flick scissored Sabitzer, and he saw red and was off. I thought that would get us back in the game, but somehow Nuremberg took a 2-0 lead when Kobel and Thior had a threesome with the post, and the ball ended up in the back of the net. 2-0 down at half-time against 10 men, and I gave the boys a bit of a rollicking, so they came out on fire in the second half, and Adeyemi got us back in the game after just 5 minutes. And it was soon 2-2 when new boy Florian Wirtz scored his first goal for Dortmund from the edge of the box, and we were right back in this. And who better to score the winner than Malik Thior, who'd messed up in the defence to give Nuremberg a 2-0 lead. He now made it 3-2 to Dortmund, and we were cruising towards victory. The score finished 3-2, and we were back to winning ways. We then smashed Wolfsburg in the quarter-final of the Pokal, which set us up for a semi-final tie against Bayern Munich, and if we won, we were to face second division Hertha Berlin in the final. We were drawn against Ajax in the knockout playoff round of the Champions League, and despite being at home first, they held us to a 0-0 draw. Given our form in the Champions League, I didn't hold out much hope when we travelled to Amsterdam, but Malik Thior opened the scoring with a fine header after 20 minutes. We were then 2-0 up just before the break when Adeyemi managed to find his way through the central defenders and slot it in past Rulli. Ajax got one back just before the break with former Real Madrid striker Jovic scoring a fine header. But somehow we were just on form, and Adeyemi made it 3-1 on 53 minutes, and we were cruising towards the last 16. That's how the score finished, and somehow we'd progressed. When we had a fortunate draw against Fenerbahce in the next round with a 4-1 win at home. We followed that up with a 3-1 win in Turkey. But we were then drawn against Real Madrid for the second season running in the quarter-finals, and on 22 minutes, Jude Bellingham scored an absolute wonder strike from the edge of the box, beating everybody including Kobel. It was only 10 minutes later and the score was doubled, this time Bellingham turning provider between Mbappe and Vinny Jr, and Kobel was beaten again. But there was one more moment of magic still to come, and this time from teenager Wiedrego, who scored a fine strike past Courtois. We may have lost 2-1, but we gave a fairly decent performance. But now it was time to go to Madrid. We had to win the game, but we've got some very talented youngsters in this team, and when Florian Wirtz danced around in the box, he found Rooney Bargi, and we were 1-0 up on 22 minutes. Real Madrid kept peppering our goal, but we managed to hold strong, and as the clock ticked down, we did manage to get victory at the Bernabeu and take the game to extra time. But Real Madrid have youngsters of their own, and Arda Güler managed to find the ball off the rebound and make it 1-1 in the 109th minute. It was enough to take Real Madrid through to the semi-finals at our expense, but I'm really proud of how the boys played. In the Bundesliga, we were just unstoppable. After the victory against Nuremberg, we then went on another 12-game unbeaten run, only dropping 4 points with draws against Heidenheim and Werder Bremen, but all the rest were victories. And we claimed our second Bundesliga title, finishing an astonishing 7 points in front of FC Bayern. But this season is all about the Pokal. It's the tournament we have to win to be successful in Germany. And Rooney Bargi gave us that advantage after just 16 minutes in the semi-final against Bayern Munich. It was 1-0 at half-time, and I thought Bayern were going to come out fighting in the second half, but they were still very limp, and Ben Sabini found himself one-on-one with Neuer and smashing it in to make it 2-0. And there were just no response from Bayern at all. We were all over them and completely dominant all game. Rooney Bargi danced round their defence and made it 3-0 on 62 minutes. And there was absolutely nothing in return from Bayern. The score finished 3-0, setting us up for a Pokal final against 2nd Division Hertha Berlin and giving us the ultimate chance of completing Germany in just 2 seasons. Berlin did put up a fantastic fight, but we were just too strong, and between Wirtz and Makuko, we opened the scoring after just 22 minutes. And it did take the 76th minute for the second goal to come when Rooney Bargi robbed their defender and managed to put it past Goller to make it 2-0. Hertha Berlin weren't really any match for us, and the golfing class shone throughout the entire game. The score finished 2-0, and we'd claimed the Pokal, which meant that our time in Germany was finally complete and we could look to move on to one of the other European leagues. And so the Pokal gets added to the trophy cabinet, which means Germany is complete and there is just one last thing to do. And that is resign from Dortmund. Reluctantly, may I add, as I've really enjoyed my time here and the team that we've built. But it is time to move on.